hope you are having a wonderful Sunday morning. Sorry, I sound a little sick. I got my flu shot yesterday with the girls. We were traveling down to go see my parents in the end of this month, beginning of February. And I also want to let you guys know of my alerting software, Trade Ideas. They are doing an open house this upcoming Monday this week. So it's going to be 5 days full access for $888. And if you go to bit.ly, all capitals, TI Open 118, you can sign up there. I will put the information down below. And if you guys haven't already checked out the Modern Traders Summit in Orlando, it is up and open for registration. Earlybird registration ends February 1st. All of the speakers are on the menu area. If you go and you do menu and you do the speakers, you can see everybody that's speaking. And as always, this week was another amazing week. I hope you guys have been good. Let me see if I can turn on the chat if you guys are asking questions or anything. Okay, so feel free to ask any questions if you guys have them. As always, my little one is sleeping right now, so I will try to get through this pretty quickly. As always, you know, with my watch list, I'm not a financial professional. I am not licensed. I was in the past, but not licensed now. So all of this is my own opinion. So do your due diligence and make sure that you are trading with proper risk management. And as always, what I like to do is I like to look at for my longs, I like to look at the lower float stocks that do have a high short float volume percentage from Friday, meaning that if it does go in an upward motion, that's going to tend to create a squeeze and hit new highs and sort of catapult it, snowball in the upward effect, so that it will go ahead and continue upwards. And then for the shorts, I like to find the larger float stocks because, like a freight train, when you have that momentum going downwards, you have stops that are executing for people that might be long-term holders, or you have, you know, brokers that are managing people's funds, and all of a sudden they see, oh, this stock's down 15%, we're going to go ahead and get out. So you start to see a lot of selling. And in general, did I trade Ford on Friday? I watched it at open, but I was in a couple other ones, so I did not trade it. It did have a spike up right at the beginning and then a fade the rest of the day. So I did watch it. It was on my watch list for the week, or for Friday. And my watch list, I do the same thing as I do on Sundays. I look for the stocks that are moving that morning, and I look to see which ones have the volume, because if the volume's there, then you're going to have the interest throughout the day. And typically, if it's a lower float stock that's moving up and it's got a large short volume percentage, it's going to squeeze. Many times, like Ford, you'll see it'll squeeze right at open in that first minute, and you got to be really quick and then go ahead and get out because it will tend to drop. So going into my longs for the week, first one on the list is Overstock. So Overstock it has 10.91 million in the float, and it had 59.65% short volume on Friday and 5.5 million overall. Trade for skill, I use Trade Ideas to find these, and then I look for the further information on shortsqueeze.com for further details. So I do look at the stocks that are lower float. That's one of the amazing things about Trade Ideas is you can customize it. You can use the EMAs. Now they have EMAs on their charts. You can use crossing EMAs, the 200 crossing the 50. You can use certain patterns. You can use candlestick patterns. It's amazing all the options that they do have available. But for me, I really like for my longs, I really like the lower float stocks. So I create a scanner, and everything that you can do, you can share your alerts when you create a scanning window. You can share it through a cloud link. So for Overstock, like I was saying, it has 59.65 million that was short volume and 5.5 million in the float. I would say look for support of 76.8 and resistance of 78.4. As I did last week, I will go ahead and put all of the charts up on my blog so you guys can see exactly what I'm talking about. Or if you have a computer in front of you, you can pull up the chart yourself and you can see, okay, Overstock was in an upward trend overall since about October. It did have a massive pullback from 90 down to 65. It just dropped below a trend line, and now you can see it touched that trend line and it's continuing up. There is a rumor of Kroger buying them out. So sometimes, like you'll see with Juno, sometimes with the rumors, if it's lower float, you'll see that it does run up pretty quickly and then it will tend to curl down. So a lot of times you'll hear sell the news. However, if it's a lower float stock, you don't necessarily want to start selling the news or shorting the stock, in my opinion, until you start seeing that curl down. So I am thinking more of a short squeeze trap for these shorts because it is continuing on that trend line. So that's my number one on my long list. After that, I do have AAOI. So AAOI we have here with support of 34.91 and a resistance of 35.52. The reason why I have AAOI on the list is it does have 16.85 million in the float. It was 46.6 million short volume on Friday with 2.5 million in the float. 2.5 million that traded hands. And you can see it has gone in an upward, it sort of had the head and shoulders to come down, and it looks like it's found support at 32. So it looks like it's bouncing up and in an upward trend. And because it is lower float and it does have a higher short float volume, it looks like it could continue up and run up. It does have a gap between 48 and 56. So if it were to run up all the way from 35 up to 48 and start squeezing big time, you will see that big movement from 48 to 56. So of course, if you have the ability with your trading software to put in an alert, definitely put one in at 48 to see if it breaks that level. You know, if it does continue in this upward trend, I believe it is in that upward trend bottom bounce off of the 52-week lows. Next for my long list is going to be CAR, C-A-R, Hertz and Avis. Now, Hertz and Avis, this one you'll see it's in a new breakout pattern, 52-week breakout pattern. It hit up, it pulled back some on Tuesday, and then it bounced off the 42 level. With my head cold, I can't talk properly this morning. I would say for support of 45.44 and a resistance of 47.52. This one has 62 million in the float, so it's larger than I usually like for a long. However, it did have 71.42% short volume on Friday with 2.24 million volume traded hands. So I would watch this one because it could definitely squeeze as well. It is right at the prior breakout level was right around 45.5. So if it does break up, I think it will continue up and start setting a new trend. It did break a trend line in itself, but it does look like it will continue up in the upward momentum if the shorts and overall volume continue up for it. Next on the list is going to be Wayfair. Wayfair is in a 52-week breakout as well. The prior breakout level was 84, so it did break that out. Good morning. And I would say a support of 86.54 and a resistance of 88.54, so $2 there for your risk management. It has 41.39 million in the float, and it did have 66.69% short volume on Friday. 1.5 million shares did trade hands. Next one on the list, I actually have 6 longs and 6 shorts this week because I just couldn't eliminate all of them. Next one on the long list is RDUS. So RDUS does have a W or V trend to it overall on the daily chart. It pulled back to 34 and then bounced up and broke out above 36.50, the prior resistance level. It's at 38 now, so I would say a support of 37.2 and a resistance of 38. It could go up if it breaks that 38 up to 40 and then up to 41 before it has bigger movement up to 44.5. It has 36.15 million in the float and 62.26% short follow volume on Friday, short volume, and 1.58 million did trade hands. And the little sleeper that I have that is the lowest of all is TACT. So TACT, again, is right at that 52-week breakout point. It has a support of 15.10 and a resistance of 15.42. It has 6.87 million in the float. On Friday, it had 66.01%. Now, the thing is, it's got a lower volume, but it's more volume than normal. So it had 66.01 short volume percentage on Friday out of 161,000. So just keep it on watch, set an alert if you can. I like to say with the support levels, if you're able to go long, try to get in near that support. It's going to minimize your risk if it does go to the downside. And if it does break that support and you have the ability to go short, I would flip it. Hey, good morning, stock fella. Vice versa. If you're looking to go short a stock, I would say go in towards that resistance line. If that resistance line counts and it bounces downward off that resistance line, it's going to be a good short entry. But if it does, use it as a point to get out, potentially mentally. I like to use more mental stops instead of actual stops because I find that the market makers do sell them. And if you put in an actual stop, then the market makers will go ahead and move the stock price to go ahead and execute that and create a trade. So on my short list for the week, we do first one is IPHI, which is at a new 52-week low. I do see that when you have a new 52-week low, it does tend to trend downward for at least another 1 to 2 days. So this one has a support of 31.29 and a resistance of 32.23. Has 38.1 million in the float. So definitely watch. You'll see overall it's had a downward trend for the past couple days, and it looks like it will go ahead and continue downwards, in my opinion. Sorry again about this cold, guys. So we have next on the short list is LITE. It has 58.2 million in the float with 48.62 as your support and resistance of 49.60. If you look at it, it does look like it's sort of setting up head and shoulders and will have a bigger drop down. It did touch down to 44 as a support level before, and before that it was 46. So I do think that if it continues down and breaks the support of 48.62, it'll continue down to 46 as the first test, 44, and then even after that, it could go down to 40 to the next level down if it was to continue and have a large momentum. After that, we have MRTX for the shorts. Now, MRTX is up at a 52-week high and it's had its first red day. So I would say a support of 25.41 and a resistance of 26.55. It does have 17.62 million in the float. It does look like it's overbought on the daily RSI it's at a 70 right now. So if it does continue down, I'd say the next level would be 23.65 and then after that down to 21.75. Now, like I was saying before with overstock, with sell the news. So Juno had the rumor of being bought out this past week, and it shot up to, it was also, correction, that was BGNE, which I watched on Friday and captured a great short on that one. So Juno has been hit new highs, and it went up to about 75 and then pulled back. Friday was the first red day. It does look like if it breaks down through 64, it's got a nice gap down to fill down to 59 and then on down to about 49. So definitely keep this one on watch. I have a support level of 66.47 right now and a resistance of 69.48. It does have 60.66 million in the float. And like I said, it does have that big gap where gaps are always great, right? Because it's usually free movement one way or the other, depending on how far back the prior stock trading was that creates those supports and levels. So definitely watch it for that one. If it does break the levels, I believe that the stops will start executing and shoot it down. The ideal would be down to 49. However, I don't think it will go that low. I think it would test, like I said, 64 and then down to 59. And if it breaks 59, down to 49. Next on the short list, we have OSIR. OSIR has 34.38 million in the float. Jody, you know what? I actually really like using puts for shorts, as I like to have the leverage there, and I also like the fact that because I like to see the higher price stocks drop, which tend to have a larger range throughout the day, so that's why I like to look at the options aspect for that. But I use Interactive Brokers and also TD to answer that question. answering the question of what brokerage do I use, Interactive Brokers and TD. Because in Canada, there's a limitation as I'm a U.S. citizen in Canada, and there's the TAFTA law, so there's only certain brokers that I can use up here. Getting back to OSIR, we have that OSIR did hit that new 52-week resistance level of about 7.5, has pulled back Friday. It's testing the old resistance level now of 6.9. So I have 6.90 as the support, 7.39 as the resistance level, and it has 34.38 million in the float. And the last short that I have is LQ. So LQ, La Quinta, it hit a new 52-week high of 21, big sell-off from there, continuation sell-off on Friday, and it did gap up on Thursday for that big sell-off. If you look at the chart, I would say a resistance of 20.55 and a support of 19.74. It does have 278 million in the float. So like I said, when you get that freight train moving in the downward momentum, I think that it really will continue downwards. That's just asked what time frame. You know what? I look at all different time frames. I will look at a daily chart, an hourly chart, a 15-minute chart, a 1-minute chart, a 3-minute, a 5-minute. So getting in, I would like to do the research, obviously. When you have a plan, it's much easier to trade with a plan. And the further out that you back out of a chart, the easier it is to see a trend overall for that stock. So if I go ahead and I back out and I say, okay, well, this is a lower float stock and you can see it's a clear breakout. All right, well, then I might go, if it's low float stock, I'm typically going to look at a shorter time frame because I'm thinking that it's going to be a shorter time frame trade. For the shorts and overall, I will back it out. I'll try to back out, get my support and resistance, try to enter near a resistance line so that I'm going to minimize my risk overall. If it breaks out above that resistance, then I'm more long biased. So even though I have these shorts going into Monday, which I honestly think that this hesitation with the shutdown in government is going to create some fear and will create some selling action overall on Monday. I believe it'll be overall for the market a red day. However, the market decides and the market wins. So whatever the market decides, that's the direction that I would go. But for back to the time frame question, I would say that really I will enter a trade more on a shorter time frame, 1, 3, 5 minute, to look at the actual price range. Given that I've already charted out my support and resistance, I don't like to try to jump into a trade that's just FOMO trade because typically those are not good trades. The fear of not making a profit, when you actually plan it out ahead of time, you're more likely to trade well and profit because you're not emotional in that trade. It's a black and white, okay, here's the resistance line, I want to get in for a short, this is my potential loss. And when you get into a trade, make sure you have an idea of a potential loss. Don't just let it get away from you. One of my favorites that I heard Dan Merkin say back at the Trade Ideas event was there's 4 different outcomes, right? You can win big, win small, lose small, or lose big. Well, if you eliminate that losing big by planning ahead of time and you lose small, but you continue to grow your account, it's going to grow overall. So just try to really cut those losses. If it's not going in your way, the commissions are low. It's better to pay a commission of 5, 10, a penny, 10, a dollar, whatever it is, it's better than $100 loss or $200 or $1,000. So if it starts going, it's hard initially, but once you get into that habit, you can get back in. It's okay to get back in, but don't let it go against you big time. Just get out. I know it's a lot easier to say than to do, but just remember that small commission is always going to cost less than a big loss. So remember that when you get into that mindset, try to remember that saying in your head. Repeat it to yourself. Be like, okay, well, you know what? The commission paid is a lot less than a big loss. So just cut those losses. And once you're able to do that and get into a better trading mindset, then you're going to end up profiting more overall. Because even if you start having small gains, I guarantee you that those small gains are probably going to be bigger than a commission. Any other questions that you guys have? All right, guys, if you haven't already, definitely, yes, be patient with winners. Don't close the winners out too soon. Wait until the chart tells you, and wait until the market tells you. Unless you have to step away from your computer, you know, I always try to put in my wish limits. You know what, White Lightning, I have been asked numerous times to start a chat room, and I typically hang out in the Trade Ideas free trading room because with my children right now, a chat room is just too much for me. I mean, unless it was just about 2.5 hours, the first 2.5 hours of the day. But I wouldn't want to start setting it up and have lots of people come in, but I'm not in the chat room the rest of the day because I typically will only be trading. I do my prep work from about 8:30, 8:45 to 9:15. Then I set up all my alerts, and then I'm ready for market open 9:30, and I'm usually done by about 11, 11:30. Yeah, I trade all variety of stocks. Actually, in my 401k, I have a lot of OTC and pink sheet, cannabis, and crypto stocks. My pleasure, White Lightning. So, and I really love doing this live with you guys and being able to answer questions because all of this, everything that I do to share, the overall goal is to help you guys in general. You know, I was there, I was in your shoes not long ago. It was 2 years ago this past February, or this upcoming February. And I'm really excited. My second daughter is going to be 1 February 2nd. And I'll be trading and doing the watch list from Washington, D.C. I'll be traveling down there to see my parents and celebrate our Christmas time. A little late, but never too late, right? And that's it, guys. So, Carpe Profit, have a great one. If you haven't checked it out, go to Trade Ideas. I'll put the information down below, and definitely check out their open house because it's an amazing, amazing platform and just growing every day. My pleasure, guys. Jody, I just trade U.S. stocks, but they are in Canadian platforms. Any advice on improving the trading psychology, like fear of taking a trade? Definitely practice paper trading. If you're fearful of getting into a trade with your real money, put it down on paper. Practice it on paper because the fear that you have, I think, is probably about making a bad trade. But if you make a bad trade with paper trading, then you will see that what did you learn from that trade, right? But if you make a good trade with paper trading, you'll be like, okay, it's going to instill confidence in you. It's going to say, okay, you know what? Your instincts and your thoughts about that trade were correct. So maybe next time you just position small with real money, and then you go ahead and you start making small gains with real money. Because the hardest thing is instilling confidence in your trading. I remember being really fearful in the beginning. Oh, I want to get in, get out. Or I had a lot of emotions of FOMO. And the best thing I can say is practice. If you start feeling the FOMO, or you start feeling fearful about getting into the trade, practice on paper and chart the emotions for yourself. You know, put them into a spreadsheet and see what you're feeling so that you can tackle your own psychology in trading. Because the hardest thing is yourself. You know, trading is a mirror image of you against the market. And once you can pretty much battle you can tackle your own emotions in the trades, and you can see, okay, well, this is going against me. I need to go ahead and get out. It's not an emotional thing. Well, what if it were to go up? Well, what if it goes down, 10 times more? Because if you're in a long trade, well, you know what? Then you can get back in. But go ahead and get out, because if you blow up your account quickly, and you don't cut those trades, you're gonna not be able to succeed. So definitely practice with paper money. I know some people don't like that idea. They wanna just trade with real money, but it's a lot easier to lose fake money than to lose real money. And you will succeed in the long run once you tackle your emotions. I only typically trade US market, even though I'm in Canada, because you think about it. The U.S. market is much bigger, and it's traded by people around the world. If you look at the Canadian market and Canada overall, well, Canada has the less population than the state of California. So I don't know many people around the world that are trading the Canadian market. So therefore, there's less volume. To me, it's less. I don't know. It's just less people in it, so it's not going to move as quickly in my head. I don't trade it, so I don't know for sure. I do buy, like I have Aurora, I have Supreme, I have Grow Growth, stocks that are Canadian cannabis companies in my 401k. So I will trade those companies, but I'll trade them on the US exchange because I just have a US account. It doesn't mean that I don't believe in the US stocks. I also have Bombardier in my 401k. Oh, I forgot to tell you guys of my long-term swings. So my long-term swings are ARDM, BBRG, and BEV, and BHVN. But to me, I will look in, and I just think that the US exchanges are traded worldwide by traders all over the world. So therefore, I think that there's more volume, more liquidity to get in and out. Anything else, guys? No? All right. Have a wonderful, wonderful Sunday. Check out my book, FMJ, Trust, Transition, and Trade. You know what, Robert? I'm going to post them up on my blog, and you'll see all the information there, and it's also going to be on Instagram and Twitter with my normal post of those. Okay? Have a great one, guys. Check out my book and moderntradersummit.com for sure, and also the Trade Ideas open house this week, and Carpe Profit. Seize those profits one at a time, and you guys will start growing your account. Have a wonderful day, guys. Bye.